Gore. Thanks everybody for joining. Sorry to tell you that story that may or may not be interesting to
Yeah,
you
it's
about
quite
Bill Gore and WL.
it's quite interesting, Doc, because at 87 here in India, we have the walking chairs and the walking sticks and all that, and if you're listening to somebody who's been hiking at 87, that's quite incredible.
It's something that we all need to do, right? Stay active.
Absolutely.
And I know all of you are active. And one very active person, all of us that have been at CES this week, it's a mind-boggling experience.
Yeah.
I just, even the second year, I thought I was more comfortable, but man alive, what an amazing place. And so we're very fortunate to have two kind of bookended people here in the sense of Paul Charles started visiting CES in the mid 90s. He's been doing it for 30 years, and every year he goes and has an experience. So we're going to hear from him today and his top 10 innovations that he saw this year. He's been doing this for a number of years. And Sarita Jackson is an amazing exporter and service provider to exporters and people doing trade, from market research all the way to getting them to be able to be successful with their international trade. And this was her first year at CES. So we're going to start with you, Sarita. Am I over exaggerating? Was it too dull for you, or did you enjoy it? Tell us more about your experience.
Thank you so much, Doug. Hello, everyone. Welcome from Las Vegas. Not a dull moment. Oh my goodness. I just have a quick little story here. So it's so interesting how much there is to do. So when I'm in Los Angeles, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like today, I would be doing my boot camp, my work. So my boot camp instructor sent me a message. How's Las Vegas going? And I wanted to tell him, even though I'm not at boot camp, I am definitely getting a workout. My phone is tracking all the steps that I'm taking, going around to all of the different places. And yes, it is very, very exciting. This is the last day. So after this call, I do have another event to go to. But as far as just kind of the location and the different hotels or the convention centers where this is, but what did I bring from this as this conference, the CES conference, as it pertains to international trade? There have been a number of talks on that. Of course, it's, talking about the technologies and the new technologies that are developing and many of the companies. And if you're following me like on LinkedIn, I put my information in the chat. You will see some of the updates, and I need to add more from the days here at CES. And a lot of that was talking about AI and some of the new innovations that are coming down the pipeline and new partnerships between different companies, some of your larger companies. But as far as the work that I do when it comes to international trade, there has been a focus from the policy perspective as well as the technological side. So in terms of my comments, they're twofold. Number one, looking at businesses in this environment that are using the technology so that they can compete globally. So I'm just going to give a few points from the discussions from actual exporters, whether they are manufacturers or service providers. And yesterday there was a panel with companies talking about how they have been able to manage incorporating technology into their businesses so that they could be efficient, so that they could be productive and compete. But also, one of the things that I really enjoyed about the conversation that it went beyond just being efficient and productive, but the impact that you have on people, whether it's within your teams, within your company, or if you are a company, for example, like I come from the economic development world, the impact that you have on the people that you are providing a service or selling, to whom you are selling a good. And so just several things that came out of this with regard to the use of technology for these companies, these global companies, was the use of AI. First, one of the interesting things is they talked about AI, but also being responsible with the use of artificial intelligence and understanding the technology for your business, but then using artificial intelligence to identify problems along the supply chain. That was one of the things that came up, but also still maintaining that human element. And what I mean by that, there was a term that was used by one of the panelists at a talk yesterday saying, create your war room, in terms of bringing in people with a diversity of thought, with different backgrounds, different specializations. So to help you to leverage the tools, the technological tools effectively for your business so that you can compete. Now, one area that does not necessarily have anything to do with technology that I want to highlight with regard to international trade that came from one of the talks on the supply chains, and well, it was titled Rebuild USA, and looking at companies and how they have had to look at their supply chain. And what interested me were the trends, especially with last year. Many of us know that it was quite an interesting year, right? 1 minute, you starting with Liberation Day, April 2nd, you have an announcement of tariffs, and then the tariffs are held off for a longer period of time. So it was kind of this roller coaster. And the things that two of the panelists were saying is that they noticed that many of the companies, especially those that were definitely going to be impacted by tariffs, especially because a lot of their input came from China, that they stayed put. And that is something that I noticed from some of the companies that I worked with last year, where I took on an increased number of companies to advise them, to provide them with the market intelligence so that they can pivot or identify new markets that made sense for their company. And I just wanted to highlight that for anyone that is curious about the trends with companies. What did they make drastic changes or things like that? And for me, it was quite interesting, just from my own experience, seeing companies still engaged in international trade, even though you had these policy shifts going on. So that's the first part with regard to companies and how they are incorporating the different types of technologies in order to expand globally. And then I walked the floors at the Venetian Hotel, the Las Vegas Convention Center, to see the different types of technology. And so you had some in the ag tech space, the digital health space. So you're seeing companies using this technology. But the second part is, what does this mean? What are the policies? That was a lot of what I got out of some of the sessions that I attended. The policies as they impact the innovators themselves, the companies that are developing a lot of these technologies. And so one of the areas that came up was export compliance, that the companies, both for businesses that are just in international trade, generally speaking, but then also for those that are innovating, developing new technologies, the importance of export compliance and understanding export controls and the regulations that have an impact on their businesses. Also, this AI export plan that came out during the summer of last year, what this plan means so that the United States can be a leader when it comes to AI technology and providing this technology around the world. Another area that came up were the digital barriers to trade. And I know, Bill, you're on the call. I saw Anita, where last year during one of the export-import forums, you talked about the non-tariff barriers to trade. And I couldn't agree more that this is an issue that also needs to be discussed. It's not just about the tariffs, but the non-tariff barriers to trade. And it was very fascinating to hear about what the United States is doing to address these non-tariff barriers, or these barriers to digital trade, so that U.S. companies can access different markets around the world and compete in those markets, as well as the United States or the U.S. government utilizing some of the technologies produced right here at home. So those are the key things, again, just twofold from the CES, and as it pertains to some of the work that the Global Chamber and many of us do. with our own companies and being a part of the Global Chamber is number one, from the CES, looking at how technology is used by businesses, the different opportunities to leverage the technology to expand and compete, but then also understanding what are the policies, because it's the policies, as I always say, that impact what companies are able to do. So the policies that are in place or coming down the pipeline so that the United States can maintain a competitive edge when it comes to technology and expanding and providing our technology around the world. And
Thank you.
just lastly, if you want to see more detailed updates, you will see a link to my YouTube channel where there is a series. I do a trade on Tuesdays at 2, every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Pacific time, about international trade. And so I am talking a lot about digital trade. So just go ahead, hit the subscribe button, and you will get more detailed analyses on these different points.
You've been posting on your daily reviews of the show. Are you planning some programming as well after the show?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am working with my team. We have some programs that are coming down the pipeline, some packages to get more detailed, in-depth, firsthand market intelligence that will help drive the decisions that companies make. And so that with these decisions, they can have influence in the global marketplace.
Fantastic. I mentioned about bookending Sarita and Paul. Charles is the experienced 30 plus years going to CES, and this is Sarita's first visit. So we're going to start now with Sarita and finish this program with Paul. And in the meantime, there's some other experts in the room that I'd like to get to. When Bill Edwards is in any room, he should be going first. And Sarita is our board chair for Global Chamber Los Angeles, and Bill is on our advisory board in Los Angeles. He also is I believe the title might be chairman for the Southern California District Export Council. And he's got 50 years of trade experience. He knows everybody and he knows everything, and he's extraordinary. If you don't subscribe already, every 2 weeks he issues a review of what's happening in the world with 38 plus countries primarily focused, but a view of the world for the business person who is growing internationally. Bill, let's go next to you. Thank you for your leadership. Feel free to correct anything that I said incorrectly. I look forward to seeing you at the Global Chamber Los Angeles lunch that we're doing next Wednesday at Japanese Village Plaza. Thank you for all of your support and collaboration. What's going on in the world? Certainly CES is going on. What else should we know?
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for that great introduction. I don't think I deserve that, but anyway, I will try to justify it to some extent. What I'd like to do is focus today on the USMCA, which is the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement that's come up for renewal this year. I'd like to tell people a little bit about what that means. And I'm involved in that with my District Export Council role. Plus, I also serve as an advisor to the U.S. Trade Representative. And USMCA is heavy duty involved right now with everybody's talking about it. This trade agreement covers supply chain integration, nearshoring, energy, automotive, agriculture, and service trade. Those are the pillars of the USMCA, which started life in the 90s as what was called NAFTA, the NAFTA agreement. Just to give you an idea, the total trade between the United States, Canada, and Mexico under this agreement is 1.8 trillion with a T dollars annually. That's more trade than the United States than the next 5 countries combined. It includes trade in goods and services, and it really underscores the total integration that now occurs between companies and trade in the 3 countries. 33% of our exports, U.S. exports, go to Mexico and Canada, and 30% of what we import comes from Mexico and Canada. To give you an idea, I said that with USMCA covers $1.8 trillion a year. That's with a T. China is about 600 billion, the EU about 1.5 trillion, Japan about 300 billion, the UK about 350 billion, and South Korea 240. So the USMCA, which is an integrated non-tariff barrier agreement, is $1.8 trillion. This year's review is becoming very sensitive because of what I call the Oval Office factor. The Oval Office factor means that that the administration is looking at every trade agreement and trying to decide whether it wants to keep it or not and whether it wants to change it. There are three major areas that are going to be addressed in this review. One is called origin of product. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means where do the products produced in each of the three countries come from? And why is this important? Because China is building a lot of factories in Mexico to try to get around the tariffs so that we would have to bring those products into the United States under USMCA, which is basically no tariffs. Well, the administration is not letting them get away with that at all. And so the origin of product is important. It's going to be even more important this summer when the actual negotiations start in June. Another area that's going to be addressed is called enforcement, and this relates mainly to Mexico. So you've got this USMCA agreement, which is huge, by the way, many, many chapters. And in there, it says that each country will do this, this, and this. Well, Mexico is really good at not enforcing terms of the agreement. Probably not a surprise. Labor laws, regulations, equal market access of our products and services, the regulatory enforcement, intellectual property, all those things are covered in USMCA, but the Mexicans, by and large, do not enforce them. In the case of energy, for example, we're supposed to be, our oil and gas industry is supposed to be treated equal to the Mexican one, which is primarily public. And in no case are we given equal access or treated equally, even though the USMCA agreement says we will be. Last but certainly not least is digital services. This is a biggie. The USMCA of 6 years ago, I think it was 6 years ago, touched on digital services, but they weren't so important. Well, nowadays they're really important because Canada, by the way, has imposed what they call digital services taxes, DSTs. So any digital going across the border pays taxes. Well, that's a tariff. It's basically a tariff. So they're getting around the USMCA regulations by calling it taxes. Digital transmission of our television shows or our YouTube across borders are now being either banned in the case of Canada in some cases, or stopped because they wanted the data to all be localized. I know that sounds really weird, but it actually is something that's going to be heavily involved with discussion. I mentioned the Oval Office factor, and this is really important. The administration has indicated that they prefer bilateral agreements, meaning an agreement between the U.S. and Canada, an agreement between U.S. and Mexico, as opposed to trilateral. And they may open negotiations with those countries, or try to open negotiations with those countries individually, which would totally do away with the USMCA. We'd have to start all over again in order not to have tariffs on everything. Meanwhile, by the way, the Canadians and Mexicans are already talking about a separate agreement because they know the Oval Office factor, as I call it. So what would be the impact of the USMCA going away? Well, tariffs on everything that now doesn't have tariffs, loss of duty-free shipment. The supply chains would be totally uprooted. And nowadays, our cars are produced in all three countries. They go back and forth without any tariffs. rid of USMCA. And one estimate I saw was the price of your car would go up 30%. And that may not be enough. Large multinationals, by the way, could redesign their supply chains, but SME, small to medium-sized enterprises, would simply go out of business. There was a USMCA SME conference in Phoenix a month or so ago, and it was estimated that hundreds of thousands of SME businesses would go out of business if USMCA went away in all three countries. Agriculture. I don't know if you know this, but fast food brands, which I deal with in my franchise business, in the United States, import about 40% of their tomatoes from Mexico. If tariffs went away, came back, then, which they did earlier this year for a while, 25%, the cost of their business would go up dramatically. Tomatoes come from Mexico. Avocados come from Mexico, Chipotle. And all those come in tariff-free now. And a practical all-in estimate of what U.S. businesses would face as far as increased costs if USMCA went away is about $150 billion a year of extra costs to our companies. So this summer's negotiations are very important on USMCA. All of us individually are impacted. Things that we buy that we don't pay tariffs on, we would have to pay tariffs on going forward. So again, the three major areas are origin of product, making sure that the Chinese are not bypassing the tariffs by producing in Mexico and then sending it here tariff-free. Enforcement of the current agreement, which the Mexicans are not really good at, and then digital services, which the Canadians are trying to get around. So that's pretty much my update, Doug. It's not meant to be negative, but it just kind of keeping people up to date about what's going on. The negotiations start formally in June.
Yeah. What do you suggest we do between now and then how do you see the process going beyond that?
Well, we can't really do an awful lot, Doug. It's really going to be what the administration does. The Canadians and Mexicans are waiting to see what the administration proposes in June.
Okay.
And it's going to cover those three areas: origin of product, digital service, and enforcement. But those things are kind of normal things, Doug. But the thing that's not normal is that the Secretary of Commerce made a comment that he thinks we ought to change it to bilateral agreements and start all over again, which would make the putting some tariffs in other countries look like small stuff compared to what this would be. So another interesting year in trade.
It sounds like it. Thank you for sharing. I think we'll have a little time at the end for questions, but it'll probably be just a little time. I suggest putting your questions in the chat area because we still have three more speakers. And Adele,
I put my email in the chat, Doug. If people want to email me with questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Thank you. I don't see Adele Alawadi. He was in the call, and I've been WhatsApping him, and he's ready to speak. But Adele, are you here? I don't see you. And so I'll just keep an eye out for him. And in the meantime, let's go to Rama Prasad. Rama is a serial entrepreneur, has multiple businesses based in Chennai, India, and he's working primarily across the region there, but he also works globally. And so thank you, Rama Prasad, for being a member of Global Chamber, for participating. And I wanted to make sure that we got a perspective of what's going on right now from you and from that part of the world. And I can't think of anybody better to hear it from because you're involved in so many different businesses. What's going on from your perspective in the world of global trade? And you've got about 5 minutes as well.
Yeah, good evening, Doug, and good evening, everybody. Glad to be here. And this part of the world, we are pretty active, especially in India. We are quite active because we have been made to be extra active because of all the of all
all
the
the tariffs that's been there
from
from the
the US
US
and
and
all
all
the
the disruptions
disruptions
that's
that happened
happened
so
so
far.
far.
Uh, and
And
I
I
think
think,
today
today
will
will
be
be
the
the
last
last
day
day
with
with
the
the
50%
50%
tariff,
tariff,
and
and
from
from
tomorrow,
tomorrow,
I
I
guess
guess
it's
it's
going
going
to
to
be
be 500.
500. Hello.
Are
Are
you
you
able to hear me? Hello?
Doug,
Doug, you're on mute.
you're muted. We need to mute everybody because we're getting a lot of back feed.
Thank you, Bill. And I'm unmuted now. Rama, you had two open mics, and we tried closing one.
Yeah. I think I've closed one now. Is it audible and clear now?
Yes, it works now. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. So,
Sorry for that.
no. Because I think, my one of my speakers was on. That's the reason.
Cool.
Anyway, so, as far as India is concerned, we've been extremely busy, setting up free trade agreements with, everybody who we thought we never existed before the US sanctions came in. And probably it's going to be 500% from tomorrow onwards, I guess. So we are kind of, forced to look at alternative markets to sell our products. So our basically in India, what we have done is, we have set up, the FTAs with UK, with Oman, and with New Zealand. Yeah, where the trade was not really great before all this thing, and now we have seen the importance of putting our eggs in different baskets rather than putting it in one particular place. Yeah, so I'm not sure whether it's a good sign for the entire world that these disruptions in the trade are happening in such a breakneck speed. Somehow I feel it's been really unthoughtful and not giving time for the world to really react to what the tariffs are going to do to them. But anyway, as far as India is concerned, we are in a very, very healthy state because what we have seen is over a period of after the tariffs have come in, we have seen now that actually the exports have grown pretty substantially. We have established the free trade agreement with the UK, Oman, New Zealand, and it's been in a very the free trade agreement with the EU is in a very progressive and a very advanced state. And of course, India has become very active with the BRICS. So the relationship with Brazil and the Mercosur has been really good. We would definitely wish that our relationship, the business relationship with China, improves a little bit because it will give us a little bit of support in terms of raw materials. But anyway, today we are projecting India as the alternative to China. And one of the reasons why India has been able to sustain and also grow is because the entire world is looking at as China plus one policy, where they're splitting the sourcing between China and India now. So there's a lot of boost in a lot of sectors in India, especially our electronic sector is expected to grow at about 42% in 2026, which will be almost about a business volume of $60 billion. We are extremely good in smartphones, because we have the Apples and the Samsungs all manufacturing their mobile phones here in India now, and the PCBs, the LEDs, basically most of the electronic stuffs are being manufactured in huge volumes here in India, and we are able to keep up with great numbers of quality and in terms of quantities also. And the other very, very strong sector, other sector which where we are becoming very, very strong is the EV sector. We have our own EV vehicles being manufactured here in India, our own brands like the Tatas and the Mahindras have all established, EV vehicles. And some of them are even competing with the top-end models in Tesla also. Some of the features in some of these cars are as good as what is available in the Tesla. So the Desi made or the local made cars are doing extremely well, and we're also exporting these cars to a lot of neighboring countries like Indonesia, Nepal, all these places. We have some huge order, and we have quite a good order from Africa for the EV vehicles. And the other sectors are the textile sector, which we are expressing, which we are experiencing, which we expect to grow by about 15%. The agro processed foods, the rice and the basmati rice and all the other things are expected to grow at a rate of about 25%, and which means that will be a business volume of almost about 55 billion in 2026. And not far is the construction material sector and the engineering and the auto sector, which is also doing pretty well. Of course, they had taken a little bit of a hit because of the huge tariffs that has been imposed upon India. So it's been actually great going for us in India, and with such a stable government, and our economy is growing at a rate of almost about 8%, which is very, very healthy. So, and a very stable government, stable and a very progressive government. And India is very big in FDIs now. We have opened up a lot of sectors for the FDI. So it will be a great time to invest in India. Suppose if you would like to shift your manufacturing from China to India, there's a lot of schemes for companies who would like to come to India, and I can possibly help those companies to establish here in India in terms of procuring land and all the approvals required and the construction, from start to finish. So as far as India is concerned, we are doing pretty great. And the other thing is like, to trade wherever we have the FTAs, almost all the countries we have a free trade agreement where, in some of the products it's almost 100% tariff free with Oman, with UK, with New Zealand. So there's a lot of possible trade relationship that can be formed with these countries. Love to have a relationship with US, but then the FTA with the US is in limbo. It's not progressing as well as we would love to. But then that's how the things are, and as far as the global chamber opportunities for the global chamber members are to trade, buy from India and sell anywhere in the world, because we can give you great quality, we can give you great quantities also. So it's a lovely opportunity to look at India in a very, very big way, and we can do quite well. So that's the story from India as of now, and let's see what happens tomorrow. I think with the law against that law for the 500% tariff coming in tomorrow, if the Supreme Court passes it, then if it becomes a law, then it's kind of goodbye to US. That's what it looks like.
Thank you, Rama. You mentioned
Yeah.
other countries, and other countries include the Gulf countries, and Adel Alawadi is here.
Yeah.
He's with the corporate group. He's also executive director for Global Chamber. He's based in Dubai. Adel, you're driving, and so sorry about that. Thank you for taking the time. We're just interested to hear a little bit an update from the Gulf. So much going on, so many opportunities. Are you able to speak?
Yes, good afternoon or good morning or good evening, wherever you are from west to east. My name is Adel Awadi. We are delighted to be part of the Global Chamber. Just taking the conversation from India, yes, India have signed corridor agreement, SECPA agreement with UAE, so that to lift some duties and customs from both countries for importing. And there is a lot of government level as well as private sector where they are trying to seek those opportunities. But in general, the UAE standing on the greenfield FDI is still number one. I think US is number two after that. So there's a lot of areas, sectors like real estate, hospitality, financial services. These are technology and innovation, research and development. So these are the future target and the vision of the country 2030 to attract more investments. This is for the UAE. As far as Saudi Arabia is also flourishing, and lots of legislation, new regulations that they have introduced, allowing foreign investment of 100% on many of their sectors. They have recently also launched in the real estate investment and properties, allowing in certain areas in the kingdom to have 100% or freehold status for these things. So they're looking more and more to attract that. So what we're doing in this region, in both UAE and Saudi Arabia, is we are hosting a couple of family investment offices to talk about the opportunities, to talk about the future of investment, alternative investment, looking what companies could do more. I mean, 60 to 70% of the GDP of UAE are based also on family roots and family businesses that they have established here from different parts of the world. They are here. So the ecosystem of family business and family offices and all of these things are encouraged by the government, and to make it more sustainable with the succession planning, with the proper governance, regulations to support the government and support the private sectors operating here. So these are I would say, a bit of focus on the sectors like technology, as I said, logistics. There's a lot of projects coming up with freight and logistics, such as the UAE would be launching and operating the freight and passenger connecting over 1,000 kilometers in the country, and this comes this year launching, and this would also be connected to the GCC rail, passenger and freight as well. And some of the countries like Saudi Arabia, they already have more than 3,000 kilometers operating in the passenger and freight transportation, but this will be connected all the way from UAE to Oman, Qatar, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. So that's the end goal. And in terms of the hospitality, I mean, there's lots of things happening in the area of hospitality. More hotels coming up. Still, UAE, Dubai, I think, is up front, number 3 or 4 in the world in terms of number of units, over 100, I think 30,000 rooms. But Saudi Arabia is building huge plans for accommodating hotels as well as MICE industry for the events and exhibitions, because they're going to be hosting 2 major events in 2030 and 2034 for the World Cup as well as for the Expo, and they're also having the Asian football game as well before 2030. So there's a lot of infrastructure projects coming up in the kingdom. So these are all opportunities for many contractors, for many traders.
Thank you very much. Fascinating and amazing, and definitely everyone should have at least a toe and probably more in the region. Thank you, Adele. Really appreciate it, and particularly while you're driving. The last 15 minutes or so, we'd like to hear from Paul Charles, who has been going to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, for over 30 years. And he has selected 10 technologies that he feels are global and impactful and extraordinary. And he's reviewed dozens and dozens of them, and now he's got it narrowed down to 10 plus 1. Paul, could you go through, ideally in about 10 minutes, and then we'll have 5 minutes for a little bit of an interaction for people to make comments. Could that work for you?
Absolutely. And thank you again for having me back, providing some insights for the Consumer Electronics Show here in Las Vegas. A couple quick stats on this. This is the 59th year, and so 60 years next year. Kind of amazing. 140,000 people, 4,000 booths. 40% of the attendees are international, including the exhibitors on this. This is really the global hub in terms of interaction for all things electronics. For those that are watching for the very first time here, a little bit of background on Global Chamber, over 600 chapters, 195 plus countries, and truly a forum in which the focus is business here. So thank you again for the opportunity. I'll be going through this fairly quickly. This will be posted on LinkedIn and other areas as well, so you'll be able to dive in a little bit more. So here we go. Here is the top 10 awards based upon walking almost 4,000 booths here over the last few days here. Company I'd like to start off with, and it's called Sensura. And really, this is an amazing technology company. I was able to speak with the founder, 10 years in development, based out of Singapore. And essentially what they have is a needle-free, non-invasive wearable that literally looks like a wristwatch. And it has a continuous real-time glucose monitoring and also collects other types of biometric data on this. This is a huge, huge thing. There's really no other product on the market today that is able to collect such an incredible amount of data at an incredibly high accuracy, less than 10% error rate, which is amazing. And they're just bringing it into the market into the US as well, too. So small company that's had a passion and a drive on this. You can imagine the millions of people around the world that have to stick their finger on a daily basis here. This is truly a portable environment on your wrist, and the battery lasts for 3 to 5 days on this. Second technology that I'd like to tell you about in the company, it's called Stradio, and they use infrared with artificial intelligence, and essentially they're using a different spectrum of light to see things that we typically cannot see. A few of the different applications on this, and by the way, this is deployed technology. This isn't a lab experiment on this. From a defense perspective, it's able to distinguish between birds and drones, and also on the DEA aspect of this, they're able to look at different types of powders and with a 99.9% accuracy determine whether it's baking powder or something else. Okay, on the home front, the technology is actually being used in LG washing machines because it's able to detect what type of fabric and texture and apply the appropriate washing technologies for that as well, too. The spectrum is truly, truly wide. You can look at the freshness capabilities and characteristics of various types of foods, sugar content, moisture content. It kind of goes on and on with this as well. Next one I'd like to bring up here is really a cool product as well. And this is from Van True. This is the first time that consumers have access to a thermal dash cam. And this allows you to see 200 feet ahead. So truly further than what you're able to see at nighttime with your headlights. This uses a thermal technology that allows you to see through rain and fog and snow and all kinds of other difficult driving circumstances with this. And it gives audible warnings if you're approaching someone that's out there or an animal or other types of things of this nature. It's the first of its kind on this as well, too. So from a safety perspective, this is absolutely amazing. And they're shipping product right now as well, too, Van True. The next product and category I'd like to tell you about, and this really deals with the biometric companion animals. And at first glance, you may think, well, what's the deal on this thing? But it's amazing the number of people around the world that are lonely, that have other types of sensory issues and things of that nature with this. I have a daughter that's done research in autism, and this is actually an incredible product for those that have autism. I have another son who's that provides a therapy insights on this, and for those that have mental illness and other types of challenges challenges on this that may not be able to care for a living pet, this really provides a whole nother opportunity that's an AI-based technology that continues to adapt and to move forward with this. This is a massive market, by the way, from a business perspective. Over 30 billion is what's estimated over the next 4 years. Check this out. This is a whole nother area that a lot of people really are not even familiar with. Next area, this is a company called ULS Robotics, and this is about the exoskeletons. I was able to actually put this on yesterday and walk around. The biggest perspective I had on this is I was able to pick up things that were quite heavy with literally no massively reduced effort, put it that way. And so this is a application of the workforce that's going to reduce all kinds of different worker strains and things of this nature on this. This battery pack, as well as this exoskeleton that I had on, literally last a full work day on that as well. So check this company out. They were pretty amazing, and they have a whole line of both consumer products as well as industrial products. This next is right in my specific area of expertise, and this is a battery. Donut Labs, they kind of announced some of their technology last year, but they kind of came out into the world this week here. What they've been able to announce is the first all-solid-state battery that's commercially viable. This technology is out of Finland. So it was fun to speak a little bit of Finnish yesterday. I used to live there many years ago. But essentially what this battery allows you to do is you can fast charge this battery in 5 minutes. It has a cycle life. In other words, you can have full charge and discharge 100,000 times. And in terms of thermal capability, it works from minus 20 Fahrenheit to over 200 degrees Fahrenheit as well too. Hopefully they'll be able to scale this fairly quickly. They claim to have a 1 gigawatt production facility in Finland ready to go. And speaking with the chief technology officer there, they have over 2,000 clients wanting to have this product yesterday. This is truly a revolutionary discovery in terms of batteries, applications from e-mobility to eVTOL to storage. Keep an eye on this company as well too. Okay, so here's a little kind of a fun one, a squeal. I currently live in Utah, about 25 minutes from a ski resort. This year has been extremely challenging, one of the driest around. This technology is pretty doggone cool. You're able to literally have electric skis that you can practice and hone your carving skills and have a great experience out there year-round on this. This company is based out of France, and they're just bringing their products into the U.S. as well. Of course, everybody's got a cell phone nowadays. Samsung has really outdone themselves. This is an amazing smartphone. It goes from a typical smartphone size and folds out to a 10-inch tablet. Think about that for a moment, and it really doesn't redact in terms of any of the other characteristics. 200 megapixel camera, 5.6 milliamp battery. Amazing technology. Check that out as well too. One of the biggest challenges we have globally is having clean water. Piquant is a small company that is now deploying their technology. It's actually backed by the Gates Foundation on this. So essentially what they have is the ability to have real-time monitoring of water conditions in both commercial as well as private environments with this. This is a game changer on this. Keep an eye on them as well. And the last area I wanted to bring up is there's I've been a Boy Scout master, spent a lot of time in the outdoors here as well as traveling. One of the challenges that we typically have is being able to keep our food as well as medicines in a controlled environment. EcoFlow really has an incredible product in the marketplace here, and this is a portable refrigerator freezer that runs off a battery for over 40 hours. And think about that for a moment. It also has the ability to have a solar panel to hook this up, along with other types of external battery technology. So this is really an amazing technology, wonderful product. Check out their website on that as well. And the runner-up is a product from Blue Eddy on this as well too. It's been in the market a little while. but just look at these two technologies in general. All right. Hopefully that was within time. Questions, thoughts?
It was exactly within time. Sarita, you get the first comments since this is your first trip, Paul's 30 years. What do you think?
No, this is great. The product that you mentioned with the AI driven pets, if you will, for people that for whatever reason cannot have a live animal. I noticed there were several different vendors or exhibitors, I should say, exhibitors of this product. And that was one of the things that was very interesting to me. And so that you mentioned that this is a growing market. And then the Samsung, I saw that, very amazing. But I do have a question, actually. I'm curious, out of all of the different types of technologies that you see, what is the criteria for your top 10 list? How do you make that decision?
That is a great question, and it's a very difficult one to actually process through on this. What I look for is applications that a lot of folks may not really be aware of, and that has an impact in an area. As you notice, I did not put a lot of the robots and other types of things that we saw, and they've been able to make some pretty significant progress with this. But really, what I was looking for are applications that have real world capabilities, and also that need to have, in many situations, some awareness and support behind this as well. But I want to have real technologies, not vaporware, things that we can look forward to implementing in our own lives or the lives of others, and bring a better quality of life.
Thank you.
Anita, what do you think?
It's amazing. I was just going to put something in the chat that the exoskeleton thing, I'm thinking I have an aunt with neurological issues. She's 88. She's very unsteady on her feet. And honestly, the Apple Watch does not pick up the falls because her arms are so close to the ground anyway. And I'm thinking this could be used for people with balance, gait issues, mobility. It could take people who are wheelchair bound because they're not steady, they're not safe. And maybe it could, they could become, they could ambulate again. They could be walking around again. It's remarkable.
Anybody else have comments? We've only got a few minutes. Bill Edwards, are you still there? Do you have any comments based on what you've seen here? Or Rama?
Yeah, my question is, are these products easily available for the Indian market if some people may be interested in marketing it here?
Feel free to contact each of them. Feel free to contact some of them. Some of them are large multinationals. Many of them, I am sure, are looking for distribution as well as other manufacturing sites in a global perspective. These have global capability.
All right. Okay. Sir, will you be able to help me connect with them?
Sure. We actually have URLs that'll be connected to each of these, and feel free to get a hold of me afterwards. And on many of these, I'll be able to help direct you to the founders themselves.
There is a blog post already up. So Paul, sometime during the middle of the night, sent us this content, and our team already put it up, a blog post, and it looks great. And so you can go to that. The link is in the chat area. Does anybody else have anything? Because we're right at the top of the hour, and I see my next meeting has already started, so I need to jump over. Sarita, any last comments before we close the room?
No, I think this was a great session. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate, and then for hearing from the other panelists, the different perspectives, and just glad to see everyone in the room. So we'll just see how this translates into what we look forward to in 2026.
Paul, you're going next year. What should we do to organize?
Every year is so different, to say the least. Just go with an open mind and an open heart, and ask lots of questions and have big ears and listen.
Fantastic. Now, we have tried to consolidate as many of the people that we know that are Global Chamber members in the LinkedIn group that's Global Chamber. So if you want to see some of the things that have been happening this week, go to LinkedIn, go to the Global Chamber LinkedIn group. Also, the Global Chamber Las Vegas group has had some of the posts as well, not completely, but usually at least one person that we know that's a member of Global Chamber, you'll see, and then you can go to their profile. Like Paul, I think we've only posted one or two of your posts, but you've got a lot of out there, including, obviously, this is very significant. Thank you for sharing all of this and allowing Global Chamber to participate in something that you feel so passionately about and is so important for the world. Thank you.
Appreciate your leadership and friendship for the last 15 plus years, by the way. Thank you.
It's been a few years, and so thank you. I really appreciate you so much. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day and weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Very insightful. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Friday.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And Stuart Argo, thank you for your comment about logistics experience. And so I'll circle back on that. Demetris, thank you for your comments, always. Elizabeth's in the room. Hey, Elizabeth, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Sorry I missed you. And Jermail, thank you. We're going to close the room now. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Doc. See you soon. Yeah.
Thanks for staying up late. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.